how to find just how to analyze every object and find its essence. And this guy took this course and found it to be a bunch of BS. And then he remembers picking up a text on Mahamudra by the 9th Karmapa, reading it, and then going and getting it, like having a direct perception of emptiness. I have the fortune to run into everybody who's practically Buddhas around me whilst I have very little realization whatsoever. So I guess I'm fortunate in that way that I'm surrounded by all these high-level Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Aryas. And Arya is what this text is looking to produce. There are two types of beings in this world. There are those children, or what is the Sanskrit, Chiba. There are children that have not had any realization, and then there's Arya, Pakpa in Tibetan. There are those who have had a direct perception of emptiness. This text is for those people who want to get to that direct perception of emptiness. Why? Because without a direct perception of emptiness, you cannot achieve nirvana. You use a direct perception of emptiness that you had in deep meditation. When you come out of that deep meditation, you will then start to, your self-cherishing, your tendency to see both yourself and external objects will reassert itself. Using your mind, your intellect, you will know that things are not the way that they are appearing to you. And you use this to slowly work on all those mental afflictions that come up when somebody says something you don't like, and you react to it as if it has inherent existence. You are, the tendency for you to be attracted to objects that you believe that have an inherently pleasurable quality, to run away from certain people or places or things that have a distasteful quality. That direct perception of emptiness will help you work on the various nyomongs or kleshas in Sanskrit, the mental afflictions, and the causes for those mental afflictions. Because once you eradicate those mental afflictions, in the Buddhist conception of a mental continuum, you have their tendency still within your mental continuum. So you have to work on using that direct perception of emptiness to work on those potentials within your mental continuum. Stop those guys from ripening with this wisdom. Without Mahayana motivation, it is very difficult for you to get off your butt and do that. Because it's like the great kind of compassion is when you see people suffering, you want to give everybody happiness. That should spur you on to reach a state where you can be of some kind of benefit to all these living beings. If you are not an omniscient being that knows all beings suffering and knows how to eradicate their suffering, there's very little that you can do for beings. You can buy them a nice car, you can feed them, give them some nice clothes, send them to school, but they'll still be forced to grow old and suffer and die if they do not have a direct perception of emptiness and slowly work away those mental afflictions. There comes a point where those mental afflictions will be eradicated. When the final, most subtle tendency to see things as self-existent is eradicated, that's essentially a Buddha state of mind. Does that mean that when you have that, you are in a paradise? No, not necessarily. You have to eradicate all. You have the very subtle ripenings from the past karmic deeds you have. You have you can achieve a nirvana with remainder, which means you've got the impure heaps from all your lousy past karma, which was created by this ignorance you've had since time immemorial for countless lives. The goal is to get nirvana without remainder. Just like you no longer have these suffering parts to you. The tantric view is to achieve that as fast as possible. You're using the same view that the same Majjhimaka Prasangika view that all phenomena lack inherent existence, imbued with this kind of great compassion for beings, and you're just turning it up to 11. I don't know if anybody's seen Spinal Tap. There's like, you know, they had the speakers, well this one goes up to 11. Well, Tantra is like turning it up to 11. You really, really, really want to reach the state of a Buddha in this very life. And it's a very dangerous path because it utilizes very volatile mental afflictions and poisons. It's kind of like homeopathy. Okay. If something exists, it depends upon something else, but that thing upon which it depends must also depend on it. Then which one of these exists independent upon which? They often bring up the subject, the two phenomenon, fire and firewood, or fire and fuel. You cannot say that the fuel or the wood which is burning can exist without fire, nor can you say that fire can exist without the fuel burning. If those things existed sequentially, then there would be this firewood, this fuel to fire burning, and then it would take on this fire. If that were the case, then you would see wood smoking everywhere for no apparent reason. Neither of these things can be said to have inherent existence. They're dependent upon each other. The real question for the bright boys in the class, or girls, or ladies, is if all phenomenon are empty, and if all phenomenon are dependently originated, is dependent origination itself empty? Is dependent origination a dependent origination? Meaning, negative way of describing emptiness is that everything lacks inherent existence. The positive way of describing that emptiness is that all phenomena are dependently originated. The lower schools, as I said before, causes and conditions, parts and whole, various other methods for that reductionism. The higher schools, well, it's mental labeling. It's mental. They can't exist for you unless they have that mental, it's dependent upon your mental projection. But is that dependent origination or that causation dependently originated? Because it's just a positive way of describing if Shakyamuni Buddha in the second turning of the wheel said, all phenomena are empty, everything, irregardless everything. So that means all phenomena described in a positive way are dependent on other things. There is no some kind of unchanging, inherent existence to phenomena. There's nothing that can hold an essence. If that's the case, if all phenomena are dependently originated, then it will happen sometimes. Sometimes you'll have dependent origination in the world, and sometimes you won't. Because when the causes come together for dependent origination, you'll have dependent originations, and when they don't, they don't. That would mean that not everything is dependently originated. So it actually contradicts Shakyamuni's statement that everything is empty. It's something really just think about. And all of these things are intellectualizations, or intellection, on processes that sages had in deep meditation. So their best attempt at trying to articulate to people what they had realizations of, it can't really be described by words. In ultimate analysis, these things must be you must have a direct perception of them in deep meditation. And to have a direct perception of them in deep meditation, you have to have very good, strong concentration. That's shine, very, very strong shamatha. To have that, you have to have kept your morality, because to have a peace of mind, you can't be worried about who you screwed over last week. And so there's a very step-by-step process of gaining that kind of strong meditation.